My name is David. I'm what people call a lighthouse keeper, though the term sounds a lot more romantic than the reality. Technically, the government stopped hiring full-time staff years ago, saying satellites and automated systems made us obsolete. But there are still towers too remote, too stubborn, or too strange to be left to automation. So they keep a few of us around, the kind of men who don't mind the solitude, or at least get paid enough to pretend we don't. I didn't grow up wanting this job. I didn't draw lighthouses in school or write essays about the sea. I just wanted simple work. I like machinery, wiring, small repairs. I've drifted through jobs over the years, some legal, some not entirely, a few offshore contracts, a year working the night shift for a shipping company, another year as an engineer on a fishing fleet. Never asked too many questions. I just drifted, taking whatever paid well. I didn't care where I lived, as long as the check cleared and nobody bothered me. This job paid more than it should have. That's what caught my eye. And I needed the money. My teeth had been bad for a long time, and when it hurts every time you eat something cold, you stop thinking about dignity. You just take what you can get. The posting came from a contractor that didn't advertise. It wasn't online, wasn't in the papers. It was word of mouth. Dock workers, old-timers, people who knew where to look. The application was short, no references, no paperwork, just a set of coordinates and a note. Maintain systems. Keep the light active. Resupply every 2 weeks. I figured it was an offshore weather station or an old Navy post they hadn't bothered to clean up. The trip out took 3 hours on a small supply boat. The waves were rough, and after about 40 minutes, there was no land left in sight. The guy who dropped me off didn't introduce himself, just helped unload the supplies, pointed out the food stores, handed me a single-page instruction sheet, and left. Didn't even look back. I asked if anyone was coming back for me. He didn't answer. So now I live here. The tower stands on a rock. Calling it an island is a stretch. It's just a chunk of stone jutting out of the ocean. No soil, no trees, not even birds. Just the lighthouse, a metal dock, and a supply shed bolted to the stone. Inside, the tower has 5 levels: storage, generator room, living quarters, observation deck, and the lamp room. It smells like sea salt and old wiring. The walls groan when the wind hits hard. Sometimes the lights flicker, but they come back. I've fixed it enough times to know the drill. Most days are quiet. I check the battery backups, the rotating lens, the pressure gauges. I run diagnostics, make sure the light beam rotates on its 45-second cycle. It's all about the light. Everything else just exists to keep it on. Keep it on. I eat canned goods and dry rations. I read books, mostly with the last guy left behind. Some nonfiction, some sci-fi, nothing special. There's a radio, but all it gets is the weather report, and an emergency channel that hasn't broadcast once since I arrived. My phone has 0 signal. Sometimes I wonder if they've forgotten me, but then the supply boat comes, right on schedule. Every 2 weeks on a Friday. It's the only constant. Means someone knows I'm still here. Someone is still paying me. The only other person on the island is Joey. I didn't ask for a partner. When I took the job, I assumed I'd be alone. It's why I took it. But Joey showed up a few days after I arrived. He doesn't work for the same contractor, at least not officially. No one told me about him, and he wasn't on the instruction sheet. There was just an extra bunk and a nameplate on the door. Joseph Mercer. Joey says he's here for the same reason I am. Maintenance, observation, daily checks. But he talks more than anyone I've ever met. And not just about the job. Most of the time, he talks about the treasure. He says this lighthouse was built right on top of a shipwreck, a Spanish vessel that sank in 1720, carrying gold from a forgotten temple. According to him, the ship didn't just sink, it was pulled down. Old sailors believed the treasure was cursed, that the ocean itself swallowed the ship. Joey's great-grandfather was a diver. He disappeared in these very waters looking for that ship. Joey grew up on the stories and now says he's continuing the search. But I've never seen him dive. What he does do is stay up late staring at the sonar screen, muttering about coordinates. His room is covered in maps, old books, and photocopied technical drawings. Most of Joey's maps and papers are annotated in pencil. He arranged them in neat rows, as if building an investigation file. Joey talks like he's from an old-time radio show. He uses phrases like, "by thunder," or "she'll not stay down forever." The first time I heard him mutter "blasted contraption," I laughed. But he really talks like that. He says it's how men used to talk, that the world was better then because people respected the sea more and had a bigger vocabulary. Well, I can't argue with that. The strange thing is, Joey actually reads a lot. Not science or history, but novels. Moby Dick, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Treasure Island. He quotes them all the time. Sometimes I think he believes he's living in one of them. Joey insists this lighthouse wasn't just built to warn ships. He believes it's a seal holding something down, something tied to the wreck. He points to the geography, tides that run in two directions, compasses that never work right. He says the locals call this patch of water the ocean's mouth. I looked it up once. The name is real. Sailors avoid this area. No official explanation. But ships disappear here. Not often, but enough for people to remember. A previous keeper left a list of recorded disappearances, some dating back over 100 years. The supply boat comes twice a month. They drop crates of food, water, fuel, and system update printouts. They never stay long. Sometimes I wave. They never wave back. Joey says they're scared of this place. I think they're just on the clock. The current lighthouse was built in 1903. According to the records, there were 3 other towers before it. One was destroyed by a storm. One burned down. The third just fell apart. But Joey says that's all a lie. He says there was an original tower, the first one, and it didn't fall, it vanished. Joey says the foundation of this lighthouse sits right on the original wreck, that the gold is still down there, bound by ancient rituals, that the light we maintain isn't just guiding ships, it's keeping the curse from spreading. Joey believes a lot of things. I just do my job. I check the systems. I keep the light on its cycle. Every 45 seconds, the beam sweeps the sea. That's all I need to care about. I've been here long enough to know what matters and what doesn't. Out here, if you make a mistake, no one is coming. There's no backup plan, no relief crew, no second chances. Just the sea on all sides and a job that doesn't care about your feelings. Over time, I've found my own ways to stay sane, to survive. I made a few rules for myself. This is the first one. Rule 1. Always check the light and the sonar. That's the first rule I made. It didn't take long to understand what mattered most. If the light goes out or the sonar fails, you're not doing your duty. And out here, duty and routine are all you have left. Most people think a lighthouse just shines a light, a big beam to keep ships off the rocks. That's true, but it's only part of the job. The other part is the sonar system. It's just as important, maybe more so. It tracks what's moving on the seabed. The sonar system was installed in the 1980s. The area was having a string of disappearances, some cargo ships, some private yachts. The explanations didn't add up. The weather wasn't always bad, the routes were common. Most of the incidents produced no wreckage. At first, they blamed the usual: bad navigation, human error, old equipment. Later, they suggested magnetic interference. This area makes compasses drift and radios die. But that didn't explain 1986. That year, all sonar stations in a 10-mile radius picked up the same signal at the same time. It came from right underneath. Engineers said it was an equipment glitch. They checked everything, ran diagnostics, cross-referenced data. Everything was normal. The timestamps matched across multiple stations. The signal was real. No one knew what it was, but it happened. After that, they upgraded the system. Better sensitivity, more backups, a wider sonar net. A few years later, another version of it happened again. And again. No explanation. That's when they changed the keeper's protocols. Since then, everyone who takes this job gets the same warning. Keep the light on, keep the sonar clean, and don't look outside too long if the screen suddenly goes white. The light system is simple. The main lens is old but incredibly reliable. It rotates on a timer, one beam every 45 seconds, reaching for miles. Your job is to make sure it never stops. Check the motor, clean the lens, change the bulb, test the backup generator. If the light goes out, you're done. The sonar station is on the second level. 4 screens, 1 main console, a keyboard, a switchboard, and a massive power supply running off the main generator and the battery backup. Scans run every 6 hours, unless manually triggered. When it scans, the software compares the new data to the last clean scan. Anything that moves, grows, or surfaces gets flagged. If something is there that wasn't there before, you log it. That's it. Most of the time it just logs harmless changes. Schools of fish, drifting debris, distant storm residue. We've seen everything from lost shipping containers to whale pods. But sometimes, just sometimes, the sonar picks up a shape that isn't easy to explain. Big, fast, sometimes perfectly still. Joey keeps his own logs. He prints every sonar sheet, draws on it, and tapes them in grids on his wall. He has a system of dots, circles, and colored lines marking positions and frequency. He says there's a pattern. I let him. This morning we ran the check together. First scan of the day. Screen's clean. Nothing new, I said, eyes on the monitor. No repeat ping. That's progress. It's just normal movement, Joey replied. Currents shift. Fish don't stay still. I sipped my coffee. Joey tapped the screen with his pen. Unless something else is listening. He says things like that sometimes, as if the ocean itself is watching us, not the other way around. I logged the scan and reset the system. Joey pulled an old printout. Look, 18th of last month, a sharp drop, same coordinates as the month before. Probably a scan error, I said. Joey shook his head. Same size, same depth, same response time. It rises, it waits, it sinks. I didn't argue. I knew it wouldn't change anything. You know what this job really is? I asked. What? Joey asked, humoring me. Wiping a light bulb and watching a sonar fence, I said, handing him his third coffee. Joey smiled. You think too small, David. That's your problem. And you think everything is connected, I countered. One of us is bound to be right eventually, Joey said with a wave. The next scan was in 6 hours. In the meantime, I was going to check the wiring. Joey said he was going to look at more printouts, probably draw more colored dots. That's our rhythm. Light, scan, clean. Light, scan, clean. It's easy to forget why we're doing it. It just becomes habit, a checklist. Power levels, bulbs, signals, batteries. But sometimes I remember what the man who dropped me here said, the supply boat captain. He didn't say much, just handed me the manual, pointed at the tower, and set it low, like it was part of the ritual. Keep the light on, keep the sonar clean, and don't look outside too long when the screen goes white. I've never seen the screen go white, but I check it twice a shift, just in case. That's rule 1, clear, practical, measurable. But there are other rules, stranger rules, which brings me to rule 2. Rule 2, beware the Kraken. The second rule was printed right in the manual, not hidden. Page 4, same section as the emergency flare instructions and the lamp maintenance schedule. Just one line. Rule 2, beware the Kraken. No explanation, no context, no footnote. When I first read it, I thought it was a joke, a hazing ritual. The rest of the manual was purely technical. How to check fuses, which lens cleaning solution to use, which breaker to flip if the generator failed. And then that. I underlined it and moved on. 2 weeks later, I stopped thinking it was a joke. It happened on one of the quietest nights I've ever seen out here. The sea was glass. No wind, no waves, even the usual sounds. The creaking dock, the water lapping the rocks were gone. The sky was clear, and the light beams swept the water, smooth, no resistance. It was so still I could hear the click of the relay every time the lens turned. I was upstairs running a sonar sweep. We do a full scan 4 times a day. The sonar alarm went off around 11:42 p.m. At first I thought it was a glitch. Sometimes it trips from a power dip or salt on the contacts. But when I looked at the screen, I saw it. A massive object rising from the bottom of the trench. It wasn't moving fast, but it was huge, bigger than anything I'd ever seen on the monitor. It just came up, meter by meter. The system couldn't get a clear shape, just a dense, moving mass, too big to define. I called Joey. He's almost here. While I stared at the signal, the tower began to vibrate. Not a storm shake. The wind was dead. The sea was flat. This was different. A pressure from below the foundations, as if the island itself was reacting to something moving beneath it. Joey didn't say anything at first. He just looked at the screen, then at the window. I walked over to the glass and looked too. About 60 meters out, the water started to move. The surface bulged, and then something thick and dark began to rise. A single tentacle rose from the sea, black or maybe just very dark. The underside was lined with suckers, white, big as dinner plates. Some were caked in algae and shells. The tentacle reached out, slithering over the rocks at the island's edge. Then it coiled, wrapping partially around the base of the lighthouse. The metal groaned. I felt the vibration through my boots. The structure didn't tilt much, but just enough to remind me we weren't on solid ground, just concrete bolted to a rock that probably shouldn't hold this much weight. We were both silent for a long time. We just stood there, watching this thing hold the foundation for a full minute. It didn't squeeze, it didn't pull, it just held on, testing. The water around it changed. It wasn't clear anymore. It turned opaque and dark, not like storm water, but like oil or black mud. When the tentacle slid back into the sea, it left a dark, slick stain on the surface. I logged the time. My hand was shaking. I stared at the paper for a long time before I could write. Finally, I closed the logbook and turned to Joey. "What the hell was that?" I asked. My voice was smaller than I intended. Joey didn't answer right away. He just stared out the window, watching the last ripples fade. Then he turned, walked over, and clapped me hard on the back, like we'd just fixed a pipe. "That kid," he said, grinning, "was the Kraken." He said it like it was obvious, like the name explained everything. I just looked at him, then back at the empty sea. The water was glass again. "You've seen it before?" I asked. Joey shook his head. "Only heard stories, read the logs, first time seeing it, waiting 20 years, worth every second." I didn't know what to say. We stood there a while longer, just staring at the empty sea, listening to the steady hum of the lamp motor. Finally, Joey went to check his sonar printouts. I stayed at the window, just in case. The next morning I went to the storage level. There's a filing cabinet with old keeper's logs, mostly mundane data. Supply lists, maintenance records. In the bottom drawer I found a small wooden box. Inside were 3 cloth-bound notebooks. Just dates on the covers. They were handwritten logs. I don't know if they were official. No typed copies, no stamps, just daily entries, hand-drawn maps of the trench. Each book described the same event I'd just seen. A mass rising from the trench, the tentacle, the suckers, the movement at the base. One entry described the metal screaming. One listed the after effects, power fluctuations, signal interference, animals vanishing. One keeper marked the appearances on a calendar, They weren't regular, but they were 40 to 60 years apart. I didn't show the books to Joey. He believed enough already. He had his own explanations. From then on, every time I checked the sonar, I took longer. I double-checked the depth readings. I watched for sudden rises. I was never the guy who said the sea was full of things we don't understand, but I am now. Rule 3. The sirens. The old keepers wrote about it in their private logs. The locals talk about it like it's a fact of life. Even the Coast Guard has a technical term for it. But nobody tells you about it, not until it happens. It started a few months ago when the fog got so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It rolled in fast, trapping small boats in zero visibility. The day it started, we got a search assist request. A distress signal 7 nautical miles east. A fishing boat. Went out late. 1 man. A local from St. George. His name was Roger. 50s. A widower. He used to run tourist charters, but work dried up. He left the dock just after sunset in a small wooden boat. No radio, no GPS, just a flashlight and a life vest. People on shore said they tried to stop him. He said he heard someone calling from the water. Said it was his wife's voice. His wife had been dead for 3 years. The Coast Guard logged it as disorientation. They called us the next morning. Said we were closest to his last position and asked for a sonar scan. Joey and I checked the sonar first. Nothing. No debris, no large signatures, just empty water and thick fog. Around 9 a.m., we started a grid search in the boat. It's not our usual job, but sometimes this happens. We split the search area, Joey on the bow, me on the motor and comms. We found Roger at 10:42. His boat was capsized, floating low. Joey saw it first, a pale blue hull listing. Roger was still alive. He was lying on the hull as if he'd tried to climb up but ran out of energy. His arms were raw. His life vest was gone. We pulled him aboard and wrapped him in thermal blankets. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. Joey asked what happened. Roger just stared past us at the water. A few minutes later, he said, "She called me." That's all he said the whole way back. Medics later said he was dehydrated and hypothermic. Probably hadn't slept in 2 days. Lucky we found him. Joey didn't think it was luck. On the way back, he told me stories from the old logs. He said some keepers used to carry beeswax, plugged their ears at certain times, especially after long, quiet nights. Some read scripture. Some sang, loud, to drown out what they heard. I asked what they were blocking. Joey said, "The sirens, kid. Sirens. They live around here." I thought he was just spinning another theory. But the next day, I went back to the file cabinet and read more logs. Different handwriting, same story. One keeper wrote, "Heard something last night. Sounded just like my mother calling from the reef." Another, "Do not answer. Do not speak. Do not turn." One entry just said, "The low, familiar song. Plugged ears, didn't stop." The entries were years apart, but the pattern was the same. Someone hears a familiar voice, usually a dead relative. It comes from the sea, usually on calm nights or after a long, stormless period. Sometimes distant, sometimes right outside. The official explanation calls it auditory phenomena. I found a Coast Guard training doc. They describe it as a mix of sleep deprivation, environmental frequency distortion, and psychological stress. In other words, your brain makes it up from the sound of the sea and your own memories. The locals don't call it that. They call it the lure. They say the sea calls to people when it's quiet, especially those who've lost someone. They say the sea doesn't shout, it sings. I've never heard it, but Joey has. A few months after we rescued Roger, Joey started keeping beeswax in his locker. "Just in case," he said. I didn't ask. He's not the type to make things up, just to embellish. One night, I found him in the main room wearing headphones, listening to an old cassette player. He didn't know I was there until I asked what he was listening to. Just noise. Keeps the mind empty, he said. He told me the night before he'd heard his grandfather calling from the rocks. Joey's grandfather died when he was 12. Since that day, I keep headphones nearby. I play static, or music, or sometimes nothing. Just enough to fill the silence. Every night before I sleep, I check the lock on the observation deck door. I stay away from the windows when the water is calm. There's nothing about sirens in the job description. No audio warning on the sonar. But after everything we've seen, I treat it as mandatory. Rule 3. Ignore the sirens. Rule 4. Kill the light when you see the ghost ships. Joey named them, the ghost ships. He saw one before I did. Said it looked like a ship made of fog, glowing blue, riding low on the water like a reflection of nothing. At first, Joey thought it was a weather trick, some strange refraction, moonlight on mist. But then he saw the figures. They were walking the decks. They didn't talk, they didn't look around. They just moved, slow, steady rows. A man pushing a mop on a dry deck, another coiling an invisible rope, a third leaning over the rail as if checking the waves. All of it looked solid, real, until the lighthouse beam swept over the ship. In that instant, they vanished. That's why Joey made the rule: don't let the light hit them. Kill the beam and let them pass. The official manual says nothing about ghost ships. There's no protocol for killing the light except for maintenance, but I've seen them myself. The first time it was just after 3 a.m. Radar was clear, sonar was clear. I was doing a routine window check from the observation room when I saw a pale blue light moving in the fog to the north. Not a bright light, just a hazy blue glow around the shape of a small cargo ship. No flags, no markings, just the hull, deck, and a single mast. It made no sound. The fog clung to it, like it was part of it. I killed the light. It's a manual switch, no automation. If you don't decide fast, the rotation will hit it. I hit the switch just as the beam was about to sweep across its path. I watched it drift by. There were at least 4 people on the deck. One was coiling a rope, just like Joey said. Another stood at the helm, his hands turned left, then right, like he was steering an invisible wheel. I couldn't see a wheel, but he kept turning, as if something was responding. I kept the light off until the ship cleared the rocks to the west. When I turned the light back on, the sea was empty. The first time you see it, it's not like a ghost story. It's like a mistake in the world, like something was left on, stuck, and no one knows how to turn it off. Joey thinks they're the ships that vanished in the triangle. He says they're still here, finishing their last jobs. He thinks they're looking for something. I asked him what. Maybe land, maybe home, he said. The local fishermen have their own names for them. Sea lights, wave walkers. An old-timer told us never to look too long. Said if you look too closely, you'll see a familiar face. I don't know if that's true. I don't look long anymore. I called them the Black Pearls. I got the name from a pirate movie. The cursed ship sailing under the moonlight with its undead crew. Joey laughed when he heard it. The oldest logbook I found that mentions the ghost ships was dated 1919. The handwriting was neat and sharp. The entry read, "Observed blue vessel outside the mist line. Figures on deck repeating actions. Light hit the bow, vessel vanished instantly. Kept light off for second pass. Figures did not react." In another part of that same log, a keeper didn't kill the light in time. The ship vanished as always, but he wrote that he saw something else, something besides the crew. He didn't describe it. There was just one short line in his final entry. Should not have seen it. Cannot sleep. Cannot eat. Must leave. According to the station notes, he jumped into the sea 2 weeks later. His body was found a few days later, wedged in a rocky cove half a mile away. Joey says the ships are drawn to the light like moths. Every time I see one, my skin crawls and I just want to pray, even though I'm not religious. I haven't, but I've thought about it. Those are all the rules I have so far. 4 rules. They sound simple on paper, but they've helped me survive this place longer than most. Many don't last more than 1 season. Some quit, some disappear, some just stop answering the radio. The supply boat arrives and everything is intact. The light is turning, the logbook is updated, the kettle is still warm, but the keeper is gone. Joey talks a lot, and I used to ignore most of it. Half of it sounds like fishermen's tales or things he patched together from novels and old diaries. But lately, I've been listening more. There's more out there. More stories, more creatures. I'm sure of it now. And this job, it's not just maintenance. It's not just watching equipment. I'd be a fool to still believe that after everything I've seen. So if you're reading this, maybe because you're thinking of taking this job, or maybe you just stumbled onto old Lighthouse records, remember one piece of advice. Take the rules seriously. Every single one. You won't get a full briefing. No one will explain the strange parts. Most people don't even know what this lighthouse is really for. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't mind the quiet nights, the strange signals, and the feeling that something is always watching you from just outside your peripheral vision, we need you. And if one day you get assigned out here, Joey and I will have a few more stories to tell you. Story number 2, The Radio DJ. My name is Fred. I'm 28, and I'm a DJ at a college radio station that's been around since the 70s. I also teach part-time in the communications department. I show students how to hold a camera steady, how to set up lighting so it doesn't glare off their foreheads, how to speak into a microphone like every word matters. Most of them are still struggling with just sitting up straight. You'd be surprised. The moment a camera is on, a lot of people forget how to have posture. I'm not a professor or anything fancy. I never wear a tie. I usually wear jeans and a flannel shirt. If it's cold, I'll throw on a hoodie with the station's old logo on the back. A disco ball wearing headphones. The students say it looks retro. No, it's just old. By day, I watch freshmen fumble with cameras. By night, I play 70s disco at 2 a.m. from a dusty booth. The carpet is faded and the walls are covered in old audio mixing boards. And when I say old, I mean old. Some of the faders still have labels made of masking tape written by DJs who are probably grandfathers by now. One board even has, "Do not touch this knob, Jerry," written in bright red. No one knows who Jerry was. The board still works, most of the time. I never planned on staying here. At first, it was just a gig. After graduation, everyone hits that limbo phase. You're not a student anymore, but you're not quite an adult. You work weird jobs, the ones that don't look good on a resume, but pay the utilities. This station was one of those. I figured I'd manage the station for a semester or 2, then figure out where my life was going. That was 4 years ago. Now I have keys to 3 rooms in the comms building, my own parking spot, technically labeled guest, and a shelf in the break room labeled Fred, don't. Everyone touches it anyway, usually for the coffee creamer. My life isn't glamorous, but it's mine. The hours are weird, but stable. I get weekends off, and the university doesn't have summer classes, so I get 3 solid months off every year to do nothing. I tell people I use the time to make music. The truth is, I sleep. Or I walk the same path to the same corner store where the same clerk asks, "The usual?" I do. The job has a rhythm, a slow, gentle beat, like one of those old disco tracks with a really long intro. Nothing happens too fast. Students change every semester. They come in full of energy, carrying notebooks they'll abandon after week 3. I teach them how to sit behind a desk without looking awkward. I have them practice reading fake news from a fake teleprompter for a fake morning show. They love it. They ask me, is this what real TV is like? And I say, no, this is more honest. Some of them laugh. Some don't get it. But I love this job. All of it. I love the smell of the old carpet in the broadcast booth. I love the feel of the microphone still warm after talking into it for an hour straight. I love the red on-air light buzzing over the door, even though it flickers and no one can fix it. The studio has barely changed in years. The main booth still has the original shag carpet on the walls. They say it's for soundproofing, but really it just makes the whole place feel like the inside of a van from 1978. Between the booth and the control room is a glass window that's fogged up half the time because the AC runs too high. The paperwork is a nightmare. We have to log everything. Every song, every second of airtime, every student who touches the equipment. I have an entire file folder just for incident reports, though in 3 years there have only been 2. One kid tripped over a cable and broke a light stand. Another brought her hamster to school to film a live animal segment. It went exactly how you'd expect. At least the coffee in the break room is free. It's terrible, but it's hot and it's fast. There's also a vending machine that only takes quarters. Only. The best part is still the students. Full of ideas, full of questions. They remind me of myself back when I thought being on the air was a big deal. But there are some weird things. And I'm not talking about the usual campus ghost stories. You know the ones. A cold spot here, a flickering light there, the legend of the girl who drowned in the pool in 1972 and her ghost now checks student IDs at the front desk. Not that stuff. I mean real weird stuff. Stuff with rules. In the broadcast booth, there are rules. Not normal safety rules. These are strange, specific, odd rules. They're printed on a laminated sheet tacked up right under the broadcast schedule. No one knows who wrote them, but after 4 years here, I've seen what happens when someone breaks them. If you're still reading, buckle up. I've got stories, and every one of them starts with a rule. The first one is simple enough. Rule 1. During your shift, absolutely do not leave the studio. Sounds easy. You're thinking, Fred, why would I leave? It's 2 a.m., there's music in the booth, coffee in the break room. Where would I go? Exactly. But sometimes people do, and that's when things go bad. The late night shift is called the graveyard shift. I used to think that was just a dead of night metaphor, but here on this campus, the name is a bit more literal. 2 blocks from the radio station, there's an old church. Brick, stained glass, and it always looks wet, even when it's not raining. I think it used to be part of the school, back when they had priests teaching Latin or whatever. Now it just sits there. A few students go to Sunday service. Not many. Right next to the church, and I mean right next to it, like the lawns touch, is the town cemetery. Don't ask me why a cemetery is next to a college. I don't know. Maybe they ran out of space, or maybe some city planner wanted to give the dorm kids a clear view of death. Ask the mayor. I'm just the DJ. From the hallway behind the broadcast booth, there's a fire exit that leads to a small loading bay. If you stand there and squint, you can see the cemetery fence. It's not high, maybe 4 feet, just an iron bar type fence. They say strange things happen there at night, and not just students sneaking in to drink. I mean, that happens, but not what I'm talking about. They say, they being almost anyone who's ever worked a night shift on this campus, that you shouldn't go near it after dark. I used to dismiss it, but there's something about that place. It makes your skin feel too tight, just looking at it for too long. One of the university's old techs, Rick, a guy who's been here since the 80s, still has a ponytail and uses a pager, said something weird to me once. We were at the vending machine, and he just said it without looking up. Don't disturb their home, Fred. I thought he just meant the cemetery was creepy. He said, no, kid, I mean it literally. That's their home now, the dead. It's their place, and they don't like visitors. How would you like it if you were trying to sleep and some drunk student crashed in, knocking over lights and making noise. Rick said that, grabbed his Snickers, and just walked off, as if he hadn't just said the creepiest thing I'd heard all week. I didn't believe him then. Not really. But over time, I heard things. Small things. Like how your phone's alarm will go off by itself if you step outside after midnight. Or how the campus cats will all stare at you in unison if you try to walk out the main door. But there was one big thing. The one we don't talk about much. About 3 years ago, a night shift guy vanished. His name was Will. I didn't know him well. He was just a fill-in. I think he was unemployed and just took the temp gig. The kind of guy who comes in with a clipboard and brand new headphones, always saying, "I'm a quick study." He was nice, quiet, used to hum Earth, Wind, and Fire. One night during his shift, Will stepped outside, said he needed to stretch his legs. He never came back. At first, everyone thought he'd just quit. It happens. But when he didn't show up the next week and his stuff was still in his desk, people started asking questions. A week later, they found him, in the pond, face down, lungs full of water. No signs of a struggle, no bruises, no trauma. Just drowned. Fully clothed, student ID still around his neck. The police came, asked questions, pulled the security footage. We all gathered in the control room expecting to see nothing, static maybe, or just him walking off camera. But the tape showed something else. It showed Will walking out the back door, hands in his pockets, whistling, calm as anything. He walked right past the loading bay, past the fence, and toward the cemetery. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. I still remember the camera angle, grainy and flickering like always. I remember the motion sensor light clicking on just long to light up his face, and then clicking off right as he stepped into the dark. After that, the rule got written down, laminated, marked in red. So now, no matter how bored I get, no matter if the booth is hot as an oven, and the hallway smells like old burritos, and I really, really want to stretch my legs, I don't go. I stay right here, where the lights are, where the music is, where the back door stays locked. I save my walks for the daytime. Rule 2. Whatever happens, the show must go on. If you've ever worked in radio, you know about dead air. Dead air is silence. When the station is live, the transmitter is on, but no sound is going out. No music, no voice, no ads. Just nothing. It sounds like no big deal, but in the DJ business, it's the worst thing you can do. It means you messed up. It means you weren't paying attention. And most importantly, it makes the listeners uneasy. Nobody likes silence on the radio. Our job is to fill the space, to keep people company while they're driving or working or lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering why they're still up. When the radio goes quiet, the listener notices. It pulls them out of their routine. It makes them think, sometimes too much. So DJs talk, constantly. Even on We Have Nothing to Say, we talk. The weather forecast, happy birthdays, rambling about the history of a song nobody asked about, doesn't matter. The point is, don't stop. We even have an alarm for it. If there's silence for more than 5 seconds, a high-frequency tone blares in the booth, louder than a fire alarm. The first time I heard it, I thought something exploded. The alarm only goes off for new people or when equipment fails. You have to be really checked out to let the radio go silent. But sometimes, it's not your fault. Sometimes the silence just creeps in. I remember the first time it happened on my shift. It was a Wednesday night, around 3:10 a.m. I was flipping through vinyl, looking for September for some guy who'd just gotten engaged. I was mid-sentence when everything just cut out. My mic was hot, the turntable was spinning, but the board lights were flashing red, dead air, and the alarm was screaming. I panicked, Hit every button, changed the track, twisted knobs, nothing. It only lasted 10 seconds, but the moment the sound came back, the phone rang. That's normal. We get calls, song requests, people just saying hi. But this call was different. I picked up. You're on the air with Fred at WZNU. What's your request? There was a pause, then a woman's voice, soft, polite, a little old-fashioned, like a voice actor, but gentle, as if she'd been practicing this call all week. She said, "I'd like to request Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel. It was our wedding song." I said, "Sure. When was the wedding?" A pause. She replied, "May 9th, 1979. People like oldies. That's normal. But most people calling our station weren't born in the 70s. I figured it was a prank. Still, I had the record, so I played it." But then she called back the next night. Same time, same song request. And 2 nights after that. Always polite, never loud. I started to recognize her voice. It had this calm quality, like a distant church bell. Finally, I asked her name. She said, "I'm Mary Glass." The name sounded old. I mentioned it to a buddy of mine, a reporter in the city, the kind of guy who looks up public records for fun. I thought he'd laugh. But he called me back the next day. "Fred, want to hear something weird?" he asked. "Always." "She's dead," he said. "Who?" "Mary Glass. Died in 1979. Car accident. 3 months after her wedding. It's all in the report. There's even a picture. She kind of looks like my grandmother," he said. I thought maybe someone was using her name, a relative maybe, a weird student art project. But the calls kept coming. Even now, sometimes on the late shift, when things get too quiet for too long, the red light on the phone line just blinks. No ring, just a silent, steady blink. And if you answer it, which I never do anymore, you'll hear her. Always polite, always grateful. The weirdest part? She doesn't know she's dead. She talks like it's 1979, about her husband mowing the lawn, about getting ready for the honeymoon. The trouble is, once you pick up, she calls back. Forever. No matter what song is playing, no matter what show is on, she finds a way to get through. We had an intern once, Cole. He thought it was a joke, answered it on purpose, laughed even, played along. But his next 3 shows were a disaster. Every time he opened his mouth, his mic cut out. Every time he played a record, the audio warped and slowed down, and the phone just blinked and blinked and blinked. We had to take him off the schedule. He didn't come back the next semester. So now, we just let it blink. Whatever happens, rule 2, don't stop the show. You see, the dead, they think dead air is an invitation. That silence, the kind of silence that only happens at 3:17 a.m., when the whole world feels like it's holding its breath, that's when they slip through. Humans fill empty spaces with their own hopes and wants and thoughts. The dead do too, especially the ones who don't know they're gone. So we fill the airwaves every second, even if it's nonsense, even if it's just humming into the mic. I always tell the new DJs, don't let the silence settle, not even for a moment, because once you invite the dead in, it's very hard to get them to leave.
Rule 3. Ignore Station 7. This one might sound weird if you're new to radio, but if you spend enough time in this building, especially on the night shift, you learn fast. Sometimes, Station 7 calls. You'll be in the middle of a set, sipping coffee, and the phone will ring, or the fax machine will whir, or an email alert will pop up with a subject line, Green FM. You look at the caller ID. It doesn't show a normal number, no area code, just the number 7. Sometimes it just says station-wide calling. Ignore it. Don't answer, don't reply, don't open the message. The first time it happened to me, I was playing More Than a Woman. I spilled my coffee. The mug clattered onto the console. Warm coffee splashed onto the playlist log. I muttered a curse and reached for a paper towel. Just then, the phone line flashed. Silent, just one digit on the screen. 7. I wiped my hand and reached for the receiver, coffee dripping from my fingers. But before I touched it, the light went out. No ring, just a single 1-second flash. The room felt different. I can't explain it. Like the air shifted. That moment you realize someone's been standing behind you for too long without speaking. The next morning I told Rick. He was bent over refilling the vending machine. He didn't look up. Last night I got a weird call. Missed it. Screen just said 7. You ever see that? He paused for a second, stuffing quarters into the slot. Did you answer it? He asked. No, I missed it. He nodded slowly, silent. That's probably for the best. He grabbed a candy bar. Still didn't look at me. Station 7 used to be a local broadcast. They went dark a long time ago. He just said that and walked away. In radio, going dark means a station stops transmitting. Maybe it's temporary, budget cuts, technical failures, but sometimes it's permanent. We call them dark stations. Still on the old registries, but gone. Static. Ghosts on the frequency. Station 7 was one of them. Green FM 95.9. Back in the 70s, it was real. They broadcast from a big farmhouse on the edge of town. Rumor was it started as a bunch of hippies, all incense and protest music. But old-timers say it was darker than that. A cult. It wasn't uncommon back then. New Age spirituality, free love, dancing barefoot, and sometimes religion. The kind where everyone smiles too wide and no one ever leaves. Station 7 was popular. They played hits. People said their music had this strange warmth, like a hug coming through the speakers. Then one summer, the whole building burned to the ground. No survivors. Some say accident, some say not. The ruins are still there. The land never sold. The town just built around it, like avoiding a bad memory. And yet, they still call. Station 7 still reaches out. We've gotten faxes, handwritten playlists, beautiful cursive, dated 1974. Songs no one plays anymore. We get jingles that don't exist in any archive. One time, a new intern replied to their email. Hit reply all as a joke. What, are you guys still broadcasting from the great beyond? LOL. He didn't sleep for 2 days afterward. Wouldn't tell anyone what happened. There are other dark stations. One in Nebraska, next to a goat farm. They say the goats kept breaking the fence, running straight at the transmission tower. They gave up repairing the fence after the 3rd time. Another in New York under a bridge. No DJ, just a looped voice reading poetry and then weeping. They say the broadcast made people want to jump. They shut it down after the 3rd body. And one in Chicago. I only heard rumors. They say it's a doorway. Any song played on it has the sound of footsteps in the background. Most of them don't reach out, but Station 7 does. So the rule is, you ignore them. Rule 4. Leave a cup of coffee by the door when the shift ends. At the end of every night after the last song, when the booth is quiet, we have a little post-mortem. It's not formal, just whoever is still around. We sit and talk about how the broadcast went, check if everything ran smooth, and go over any weirdness that might have happened. A mic glitch, a late call, a skipping record. Those little things matter more than you think. We call it the post-mortem. It's a real term. TV producers use it. A wrap-up. I always thought the name was a little too dramatic, but it sticks. We don't have a proper table. We just sit on the edge of the stage in Studio B, feet dangling, finishing our drinks. I like hearing the students debrief. They notice things I miss. The vibe in the room, the tone of a caller, the weird silences they felt. When everyone's done, they pack up, check their phones, disappear down the hall. The lights click off, one by one. The building goes quiet. That's when I go to the back kitchen. It's not nice. It's a small kitchenette. Warped counters,
peeling linoleum floor. The old fridge buzzes and it always smells faintly of burnt toast, even though no one cooks. It's tucked away and the hallway to get there always feels a little too long. The red mug is on the top shelf, everyone knows. Big handle, heavy ceramic, a chip on the rim. Bright red, the kind of red that doesn't fade. You take it down, rinse it. You make one last pot of coffee, black, no sugar, no cream, and you set it by the door. Not the main glass door with the logo, the side door, the one by the soundproofed hallway that most people forget exists, right under the emergency light. The mug goes right there, on a little wooden stool, handle facing out. If you're fast, it's still steaming. Then you leave. I have never skipped this step. No one has. Even the new students, if I forget to tell them, they'll remind me. It's a ritual no one breaks. I asked Rick about it once when I first started. He said it was an old tradition. The last person to lock up always leaves something. Goes back to the 70s. Rick told me someone once left a bottle of Coke. Came back the next morning, the cap was off and the label had been peeled clean off. So the red mug became the standard. But Rick said something I never forgot. His grandmother believed red was a color the other side could see, not just recognize, but understand. The color of blood, the color of breath, the color of life, holding on at the thinnest edge. Rick said coffee is the drug of the living, and maybe if other visitors pass by, they'll see the red, smell the coffee, and just keep moving. No one watches the cup. No one stays to see who or what takes it. But every single morning, when the first person opens the building, the mug is empty. Doesn't matter how early they arrive. Student, janitor, professor, the cup is always empty. One time I decided to leave early, handed the lockup to an intern. It was a long night. I just wanted to get out. I didn't make the coffee. Told myself it was just a tradition. It didn't mean anything. The next morning, the side door was ajar, just a crack, like someone pushed it but didn't come through. No one had come in early that day. I've made the coffee every single night since. I don't know if it does anything. I don't know who drinks it. Maybe it's just superstition. Maybe it's the only thing keeping the walls here from caving in. I just know things run smoother when the red mug is full and warm before I leave. You don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to follow the rules.
Epilogue. It's been over 4 years since I walked into this station. I only meant to stay a semester, a gap. But I stayed. Some people keep memories in photo albums, some write diaries. I have playlists, dozens of them, dated by mood, by weather. I can tell you exactly what I was doing on a rainy Thursday 3 years ago just by the songs I queued up. The music never lies. I've seen the rules on the wall 1,000 times. Most people stopped noticing them. They just blend into the bulletin board, stuck between a fire escape map and an expired flyer for improv night. But I look, every night, make sure they're still there, because the rules work. I follow every one. Stay inside, keep the air full, ignore the calls you're not supposed to hear, leave the coffee, always in the red mug. In return, the station stays quiet, mostly. There are still nights the booth gets too quiet, the lights take an extra second to turn on, the mic has a faint crackle it shouldn't. I don't mention those in the post-mortem. No need to scare the new kids. They'll learn. Rick says he's probably retiring next year. I think I'm just tired, he muttered, wiping down the vending machine. I don't blame him. This building is getting old. The carpet in the recording booth is worn down to the threads. The ceiling tile in Studio B still leaks when it rains hard. But the signal is still clear. The turntables still spin. Last week, a student stayed late. She said she liked the quiet hours. Asked me if I thought she could handle the night shift. I asked her if she was good at following instructions. She said yes. I told her to memorize the rules. She nodded.
Some places run on schedules, some run on people. This place runs on ritual, and the rituals only work if people keep doing them. If you ever take this job, good luck and follow the rules.